20 years ago, everything started as normal. People woke up, ate their breakfast, went to work, talked about dinner plans, urged their kids to behave, said goodbye, told them they loved them, see them later. But soon everything changed. Tragedy struck. We watched as a plane collided with the second tower, in shock as well as in disbelief. We watched as we realized this wasn't an accident. In horror, we saw the towers fall. We prayed for those working in the rubble, trying to find any sign of hope in life. For those battling the fires around town, for those personally impacted by the tragedy of that day, life would never be the same. For the rest of America, life became different. We went to war as a country. We grieved and remembered all those who died that day. But above all else, we were united. Democrat, Republican, independent, gay, straight, man, woman, child. Didn't matter in those days. We were one group. We were Americans. We came together as a country. Other countries played the national anthem in solidarity to what happened. We talked to our neighbors and mourned together. But that unity faded. We are no longer united. We are divided over every little thing. The color of skin, who we support politically, who we love. Everything has become a reason to become divided. Hopefully it doesn't take another tragedy like 9/11 to unite us, but it's fearful that it will be. Let's, as Americans, put aside that difference, agree to disagree, and come together once again, united. Welcome to a slightly different type of episode for Use Your Words. Sitting here with Mr. Aaron Johnson. After both of us actually just started, I pulled up some videos and made Mr. Johnson watch of 9/11, 20 years ago. Obviously, this isn't releasing on the 20th anniversary. That was Saturday, so just a few days ago. But just the way things happened to be recording-wise, couldn't get anything like that together. But wanted to at least talk about it, because it is 20 years ago. And it's interesting because me and Aaron are from different generations on this one. And there's not much that could, I guess you could say, be common ground for both of us. Because, okay, you were in kindergarten. In 2001. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Makes me sound like a creeper, by the way. Because you were in kindergarten. I was in my first year of college.
Wow. Yep.
Okay. I had just graduated from high school, the June before. I was in my first year of college. I was in Orange City, Iowa.
Orange City, Iowa.
Yep, out in the middle of cornfields where, as far as the eye could see, where everything was closed on Sunday except one gas station in town.
Wow.
Like,
dang.
Everything else was gone, like just shut down. Obviously, they still had the cafeteria, for the students.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But everything else, like in town, was just shut down.
Nada.
Nothing happening that day. Very, very conservative area. Very much followed those, Sunday is for church and rest, and everything is going to close down today, sort of
Right.
laws. And that's just how it goes, especially when you're in the middle of podunk nowhere, Iowa. Not that I have anything to say against Iowa. I enjoyed my time there. But I had just gone to chapel that day. And they didn't start on time. It was weird. It was just really weird. Like, they didn't start on time. Everyone's just kind of sitting there like, what's going on? Now, remember, this is before the advent of everyone having cell phones really. At most,
yeah. Wow.
At most, we would have had flip phones.
That, yeah, all of that you could do on a flip phone.
Right.
Could do a ton.
Because remember, when did the iPhone come out? The first one.
The first one?
Yes.
Wasn't that like mid 2000s to later 2000s?
2007.
Okay.
This was 6 years prior to that.
That first iPhone. Gosh, and I'm sure if we looked at the first iPhone now, I'd been like, what is this thing?
Yeah. It didn't even have an app store available for it.
Oh my gosh.
They designed it for web apps only, but tracking off the point. So there wasn't a lot of like ability for people to, browse the web on their phone and find out all this information. In fact, our university was kind of unique because we had Wi-Fi in the dorms. Like that was a selling point for the university.
Wow.
So, it was great, and I was like, oh, beautiful. Cool. But like I said, that was a selling point. That wasn't a thing that was kind of universal at the time. And I didn't, like, at that point, I didn't have a laptop. I only had a desktop. So I could only use a computer when I was in my room. I didn't have all the access to internet that, that you grew up on, so to speak.
Gosh.
So, anyways.
Well, say at this time, I didn't even have a phone.
Yeah, I know. But, so, anyways, so we're in chapel, kind of going, it's starting late. So everyone's just kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? And then finally someone comes in and says, if you haven't heard, there's been an attack in New York. And they just said, we don't know what's going on, but it seems like it's a big deal. We're canceling classes for the rest of the day.
Oh.
Go back to your room, read the news, whatever.
Yeah.
And that was it. They dismissed us. Like there was no other comment of like, hey, we're going to spend time to pray about what's going on. Because at that point in time, there wasn't much known other than 2 towers had been hit.
Yeah.
There wasn't, much known about that. Come to find out later that day, the Pentagon also got hit. And then there was a flight that went down in Pennsylvania, Flight 93. And that one was either headed for the Capitol building or the White House. They're not 100% sure, but they think it was one of those 2 targets that flight was headed to. And anyone like my age, or maybe a little bit younger even still, probably there was like 12 or 13 on upward in 2001. So still 6 years away for you.
Yeah.
But anyone in that age range or older can remember pretty much where they were when they found out that the towers had been struck. And most people remember where they were or were watching TV, like in a common room or whatever.
Yeah.
When they saw the towers collapse. Because you got to remember this, and this is more for you, Aaron, and maybe anyone who's younger. When the first tower was hit, they thought it might have been just an accident.
Yeah.
They didn't think that this was an intentionally done thing. There were one of the documentaries I was listening to, Real Truth History. They were saying that people initially thought it could have been like some landing gear from a plane or a small private plane that hit. No one had any clue that it, at first, outside of like the flight center, the military didn't even know at this point that it was a 747. The military wasn't told until like 4 or 5 minutes later that the tower had been hit by the 747.
Okay.
And I'll say this. If you haven't yet, go to YouTube, look up Real Truth History Documentaries. That's the channel name. And look up 9/11 Voices from the Air. They have interspersed throughout the entire documentary actual recordings of either people from the planes to loved ones or of like the flight controllers, trying to contact the planes, as well as like the FAA trying to talk to the military, trying to say, hey, please get some jets up there. We don't know what's going on. We know some hijackings potentially going on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting watching, and the documentary kind of brings up, at that time, the bureaucracy between the departments as well as the lack of a common language between the departments, how that helped facilitate what happened on 9/11. How as 9/11 happened, our responses were lagging behind because no one knew how to talk to one another. Now, thankfully, a lot of that's been changed and fixed since then. People kind of went back and said, okay, what happened on 9/11? How could we respond better? Obviously we have the TSA now because of 9/11 as well. So that whole thing, that's why you can't bring on so many ounces of liquids and,
Right. Yeah.
we have the ever long consequences of it. It's why we went to war in the Middle East that we just pulled out of from Afghanistan that after 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like in good or bad on your view of it. These are the consequences that happened because of this. And that's why it's a very important piece of history. It was one of the few times I think. So the Queen over in Britain, after 9/11, she had at the changing of the guard, but she had their band play the American national anthem.
Oh wow!
After 9/11, kind of that world solidarity, like, hey, we can't do anything for you right now, but we understand, we mourn.
Right.
That's
wow. I didn't know that happened.
It's one of the few times, as they explained in the documentary, where the FAA grounded all planes. And there's multiple stories you could read about that, or like there was a town up in Canada, a really small town that happened to have an airport, and all the flights to and from the U.S. got grounded. So all of a sudden, this little town that wasn't really designed for anyone except for like their few residents, all of a sudden has this influx of people who are stuck there until the flights can be allowed to go again.
Giant plane come in. And potentially, maybe. I guess I don't know.
I don't know the size of the plane, but they had more people than they normally would have to care for.
Yeah.
And how, you read the stories about how those towns kind of opened up and took in those people, made sure that they were at least somewhat comfortable. They weren't suffering, essentially.
Yeah.
You were reading these stories. You were reading things from people who worked in the blood centers at the time, who said they actually had to discard so much blood because they were getting more blood than they could use. Because everyone was like, well, what can I do to help? Oh, I can donate blood.
Yeah.
And they were going to donate blood, and they were doing this. They were like, what can we do to help out in New York?
Yeah.
What can we do to help? Because not everyone could be on the ground there. Not everyone was a firefighter or trained in how to do things. One of the stories I was listening to today, it was from, he is a retired firefighter now. He was in training to be a firefighter at the time.
Oh, okay.
He was only on the job like 6 months or whatever. He was an ex-cop. Like he was a cop, and all of a sudden was like, oh no, I want to be a firefighter. How you make that transition? Hey, whatever. Cool. But he's talking about how, like, it's near the end of the day on the first day, on 9/11 itself. They're tired. Like, I forget what the terminology is, but they're trying to get, like, they're taking a break, essentially, because they had so much gunk in their eyes and of soot and all this.
9/11.
Yep.
Okay.
Like, they were on the ground still.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, we're trying to breathe because our lungs were filled with smoke, trying to see because eyes full of soot and all that other stuff. And he's talking about that. He's like, how they're all tired there. And he's like, all of a sudden he felt a hand on his shoulder. And then another hand, and people are just walking past, putting their hand on him. What it was the iron workers and all the construction people from around town. They're like, we're not trained firefighters, but we know how to cut through steel. We know how to put out fires.
Yeah.
And they bust themselves in and came to help relieve some of the firefighters. It didn't matter that it wasn't their job.
Right.
It didn't matter that they were not responsible. It didn't matter that they were home safe. They said, there's something that needs to be done. We need to do it. And they did it.
That's awesome.
Nowadays, That's not going to
Seems
happen.
like that's not a thing anymore.
It's, let's see, does this person over here fit the right qualifications for me to be able to,
Do I care for this person or no?
do they have the right politics? Do they support the
Yeah.
right things? Do they eat the right foods? Do they vote for the right people? Do they support the right agendas? In a weird sense, 9/11 brought us together as a country. It brought us
Right.
together more than it ever had. For a while there, it seemed like we were all saying we're in this together. And there was that word, together, united. And I fear, though, that as the years have gone by, we've let some of that.
Go away.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I guess that's the thing. I mean, obviously there's still going to be those people that are very much still the same, or would still be in the way of helping out no matter what. But I mean, it's probably a lot that aren't. But that's assuming that, I don't know, people wouldn't help out in a form of tragedy, I guess. If it actually, if it happens.
I think tragedy, yes, but like everyday, like sort of
Right.
incidents.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. And I'm sure a lot, from 9/11, like a lot of that afterwards, it's just like, oh, just help your neighbor out.
Yeah.
But
At that point, didn't matter who you were. Didn't matter what your religious beliefs were. Now, to be fair, there was some, I guess you could say, backlash a little bit, because after it came out that it was of the nationality of the terrorist, let's put it that way. Okay.
yes, yeah.
I will say there were a lot of people, and this even happened up here in our area.
Oh, yeah.
Well, do you remember the Sikh temple shooting?
No, that
Okay.
I don't remember.
I don't think it was the same year as 9/11. It might have been a little bit after. It was a little bit after. Okay.
Okay.
Where people didn't realize what the difference between a Sikh was, that religion, and the religion of the terrorists. They equated them the same.
The same.
Now, here's, and some of that is, I'm going to say this straight up, some of that is some of the ignorance of people. And then when people get riled up, they lose all ability to rationalize and to think properly. And they see everyone as other than them as the same, which is horrible.
Right.
Because here's the thing. Do you know what the Sikh religion is?
Do I know?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know, is it the same or is it different than what the terrorists were?
I'm imagining it's different.
Good job.
Otherwise, I wouldn't imagine it really being able to. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I was going to say have a facility where they would meet, but yeah, anywho.
Yeah. So
But it's different.
Yes, it is different. Completely different. Not even related. In fact, you know what? Guess what Sikhs wear? They wear a turban.
Yeah. See, okay, and I growing up, I guess, well, yeah, it wouldn't have been. It would have been maybe a couple of years after 9/11 then, but like being a little kid, I'd be walking around the neighborhood, and we did have someone in the neighborhood who I noticed he'd be out walking every once in a while with a turban on, and he did look Middle Eastern, and I remember at first I was always just a little skittish. I was like, oh, like I kind of like as a kid I got nervous at first about it, but then obviously, thankfully for me having the loving parents that I do, they're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Not every person out there that happens to be Middle Eastern, well, especially during that time, is a bad person.
Do you know where the Sikh religion comes from? What country that's?
I have no idea.
That originated in India.
Oh, Okay.
So a lot of the Sikh,
Yeah.
and I may be saying that completely wrong. It's Sikh.
Correct us. Oh. Oh, okay. Okay. So,
Yeah, Sikh, Sikh. Anyways, it's a monotheistic religion. It's from India primarily, a lot of Indian followers. So a little bit different than Afghanistan, Iraq type area. Okay.
Pakistan.
Yeah, all that. So unfortunately, we had people who were. And how old were you about that time? Do you remember when you saw the Sikh man walking around with the turban?
Oh, I mean, it had to be within 2 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
so under 10 years old.
Yeah.
So under 10,
yeah.
you're still growing, you're still learning. Okay, that can be forgiven. You know, the Sikh temple shooting in Wisconsin.
Yeah, when did that happen?
That happened so it did happen a little bit after 9/11, obviously.
Yeah.
Because 9/11 was 2001. This was 12.
Oh, it's 2012?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I guess if I'm sure I heard about it then. I mean, I would have been in high school at that point.
Yep.
So then I'd imagine I would have heard about it. I just don't remember it.
So the assumption and the thought was that he equated them with, you know, the same religion as a terrorist.
Yeah.
Now, whether we're going to know that 100% or not, don't know, because of the fact that he shot himself.
Oh.
As part
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this isn't that far away from here where this happened. It happened in Oak Creek.
Wow.
So very close to where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, this has had impact on people and on communities ever since 9/11, because obviously it has continued on.
Right.
You know, you do have, like I said, people who, for whatever reason, and I'm not gonna describe what their motives were, or than what we know about them, right? But all as we know is, or at least the assumption is, that he equated the Sikh with the terrorists, because honestly he didn't know better.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who don't know, where, like you said at 10, where you were equating everyone from Middle East as the same.
Like, ooh, yeah. Well,
And that's the thing.
yeah.
If you think about it rationally, not even everyone from America is the same in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you drop an American off in France, and it's like, oh, geez. Drop a Southern hillbilly with a Northern elite off, and you'll get two different responses completely, because those are two different people. Yeah. Even though they're from the same continent, they're both American. Doesn't mean they respond the same. Just the same as someone from India versus Afghanistan versus Iraq versus everyone. It's all going to be different. So you can't say that, oh, you're from that part of the world. I get it. I see.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
We're all very different here.
And we need to remember and learn that as Americans, you know, sometimes, where we need to take some of that prejudice away. Now, I'm being completely honest on that, because that's the only way we're going to get better. Now, I'm not saying you have to be so to the extreme that some people take it, where it has gone to these past few years, where it's gone a little bit on the crazy side.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm not saying you have to go to such extremes as like, oh, I must bow down to you and say I'm sorry because I'm a white person. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying going crazy. I'm saying there is beauty and there is greatness in understanding and celebrating the differences in our cultures, the differences in our ability on where we grew up on. You know, it'd be great to bring a guy from, you know, Louisiana up and be like, all right, make us some gator stew or something. Yeah. You know, but at the same time, it'd also be great. I love Indian food. There's some great Indian food. Now, you're like, oh, you're belittling. Yes, I'm showing some basic examples, okay? I'm not belittling. I'm showing some basic examples. To appreciate culture, it means you have to appreciate all aspects of it. Now, that just because I am not someone who is Sikh myself, that's not my religion or anything. That doesn't mean I can't appreciate, some of the stuff that they do and some of that, and some maybe even some of the tenets they have, which are actually pretty. I agree with. I just don't believe in the God that they say they believe in. So that's how we're different in those regards. But that doesn't mean we can't get along. Doesn't mean I'm going to go necessarily to a worship session.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. But be like, hey, what do you do? Like, okay, quick example. What I do for work.
Yeah.
When we're in the office, every 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, I bring in tamales. That's my way of bringing a little bit of Mexican to all these white people in my office.
Working in the office.
It's like, here, let me give you a little bit of tamale. Watch out for pork bone and pork tooth while eating, but otherwise enjoy. I have gotten a pig tooth in mine before.
Oh, no. Ow.
That hurts, by the way.
When you don't expect it.
Yeah.
That can screw you up.
But I think that's what we need to do, is we need to stop dividing ourselves so much on, you're this religion, you're this sexuality, you're this skin color, you voted for this person, you drink this, you eat this meat, you don't eat this meat. Those things are all secondary and ancillary to who we are as core.
Yeah.
As core, we are human beings first. We're Americans. Christians, if you're Christian, you believe that that's second and then American third. But, however you want to layer that. But at the core, we're all human. I don't care. Are you baby-faced bald? Or do you have a big old beard? I don't care if your skin is brown, white, black, whatever.
Green.
If your skin is green, you might want to get detoxified.
Go to
you might have a little too much copper in your diet. We've lost that sense of unity since 9/11. We've become that country that once again is divided over every little thing, and it's driving me nuts over that.
See, I feel like it's.
I feel like
I don't know how to say it, because it's in one way. There's people that are getting unified in the country. But I guess I would say, there's more division than anything happening.
How are we getting unified?
It's like people obviously in their own little groups are unifying in, like, I guess, coming stronger together. But there's like so many different little groups now that are just like at each other. So
we're segregating and becoming divisive.
Yes.
That doesn't sound like unified at all.
Each little group is becoming really unified. Yeah. But as a whole, there's just a lot more fighting, it seems like, going on.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't seem like unity.
Not as a country, no.
Anyway.
Not as a country, at least.
So, I'm going to ask you this, Mr. Johnson, because you're growing up from a younger generation in this regard.
Yeah, it sucks.
Like I said, obviously, you were 6 when this happened.
Yeah,
you were a youngin'.
I was at my good old Racine Christian School.
Okay.
At the time that happened.
So you were a youngin' when this all happened.
Yeah.
Do you remember, did your parents try to explain what was going on, or did your teachers try to explain, or what do you remember about that day, if anything?
See, this is funny because I remember talking about this with a friend of mine that I grew up with, because we would switch off going to each other's houses either like after school, and I'm pretty sure we went to my house after this. But because I always thought I remembered it like we were just outside our house, whatever, playing games or something, and then like we got pulled inside. But then I remember he was telling it. He's probably right, but like we were at school. Which now also thinking about the timing of it, I was like, yeah, we were at school. But for kindergarten, I think we like went home at like noon or something. Like so we'd go home earlier anyways.
Yeah.
But I mean we were out at school, whatever. I think we just got sent home early after that happened. And then I mean I don't remember much explaining about what was going on other than bad people are attacking kind of thing. So but yeah, and as far as I I remember like seeing on the news of like the planes hitting and stuff like just like footage being played over and over and over again.
Oh, so your parents actually let you watch that footage when you were young.
Yeah. I
Okay.
do remember seeing that. But then other than that, I mean, yeah, I just knew bad people were hurting us kind of thing. Never got too far into details. But then obviously and then as the war and stuff broke out, I mean, you'd see all the terrorist group people would be like on the news or whatever. You'd see, and that's where the whole turban thing. I was like, oh, if I saw someone with that, I was like, oh no, like is this person a good person or a bad person? I don't know. But then, yeah, again, obviously, it's just like, I guess I kind of learned that a little lesson as a young kid, maybe ish, just to know that not everybody's a bad person that looks the same as others. If that makes any sense, but
Okay.
I don't remember a whole lot of it. I just remember being a little kid and playing games.
Okay. And then as you went through middle school and high school, because obviously at this point now, this was your history, but even though it's pretty recent history, did any of your classes touch at all on anything
talking
from
about
9/11?
wait, and during what years?
Like your middle and high school years? Do you remember any classes, even
Like
if it,
really touching in on it?
even just a little bit, did any of them touch on it or not? This is just me being curious because
Oh yeah,
I wonder how history classes, in that almost immediate sense, handled it.
right. I was for high school. Uh, I would say, gosh, I mean, nothing really stood out. It's kind of like whenever it came time to 9/11, or if it was like near that, like whatever the closest day to 9/11 was on a school day,
Uh huh.
like, I mean, it just seemed like the whole school would kind of do a whole thing of remembering it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, as far as a history class specifically talking on it, nothing that I can think of. There's two. Well, I guess I would say for high school, there was one teacher who used to be in the Navy, so he would talk a little bit more on it. And any other history teacher I had was just kind of like, yeah, this happened kind of thing, whatever. But him being in the military, he seemed to kind of talk about it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
For high school, for being at RCS, when I was there, I feel like was one of the it would have been my friend's dad who was a teacher there. He was super like kind of like very passionate about the whole thing as like, you know, you see if being younger kids, you know, we could be very judgy as far as who we would see coming around, and if we saw someone that looked more like that, like from if they were from Middle East kind of thing, we'd just be like kind of thing. And he would always make sure to smack that out of you kind of thing. And he would talk about stuff like that and whatnot, and talk about he talked a little bit about the whole 9/11 stuff, but it was mainly just making sure that you didn't have that, I guess, prejudice or whatever kind of
Yep.
thing towards others. So he was really big on that kind of stuff. And I mean, the school in itself was big on that, but good old Mr. Brad, he was always super passionate about stuff like that. I liked him. I like him. He's still around. I still like him.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, they
I was just
I
curious.
feel like they never really went much into detail about stuff. They just remembered it. And yeah.
Okay. I was just curious because,
I feel
you
like
know,
that should be a bigger thing.
well, maybe you would think at least they would spend the 9/11 day talking about it.
If it was, yeah. If it was on a school day.
especially if you were like in a world world history or U.S. history class. Now if you were in like early American history, it makes sense that they obviously didn't cover it at that point. Let's talk about George Washington, and now let's talk about 9/11. Okay, I get that.
It's a big jump.
That makes total 100% sense. But that was just me because I was curious how they handled that in that quick aftermath. Because it wasn't that long after 9/11 that you were in middle school and high school, and it's not like the textbooks were ever updated on time. Especially public. Well, maybe RCS has more recent books, but like public schools always have like older textbooks.
I'm trying to think of how I thought. No, I could have swore for one of my history classes it got pretty current to what had happened in the country, at least.
Yeah. Now, to be fair,
surprising.
Yeah, and to be fair, like some of the stuff, including a lot of like the calls and that, haven't been declassified until like 6 years ago.
Hadn't been Oh.
Yeah, so until like 6 years ago, they were still all classified. So there was some context that we as American people, like we obviously we know what happened with the towers and that, know. And
you can't get past that.
I wish Josh was here because I would like to ask him point blank.
What?
Does he believe in the conspiracy of the towers?
Oh my gosh. We started talking about that once at work. And I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah.
Until I kind of like started working where it wasn't like conspiracy theories stuff came up. I never realized that there was people that were out there like, oh, Bush did it kind of thing. Like I had never known that. I was just like, what? Because like right away, just for me, I was like, why on earth would anybody do this? Like to their own like homeland kind of thing.
Well, it's the wag the dog theory.
It's the what?
Where essentially you either create in news or you create in reality the reason to go to war. Oh. So that's a lot of the conspiracy theorists like Bush and Obama and all them war hungry, so they'll do whatever they need to do to justify going to war.
Yeah.
That's at the crux of their theory. That yes, the planes went in, it was all orchestrated by Bush, and then the planes don't have enough fuel to bring down the towers and melt and all this.
Yeah, there's people saying like, oh, here's the picture of like they're like, where is the plane remnants after it crashed? Like I don't know, I don't remember what the video was. I was just getting so angry watching it. But they're like, yeah, and also like the beams were melted or whatever, and nothing on that plane or the fuel should have melted the beams or something like that. I'm just like, huh? I don't know. I hate stuff like that.
So there's those big conspiracy theories. There's all sorts of. There's always going to be conspiracy theories about everything. There's still conspiracy theories about JFK. Okay.
Oh, right.
And how he was killed. So there's conspiracy theories about that. Conspiracy theories about 9/11. There's going to be continued conspiracy theories forever, essentially. There's conspiracy theories about the COVID vaccines now.
I was just about to say that. I was like, dude,
it's just going to continue on and on and on. It drives me nuts. But I kind of wish that Josh was here because I know he believes in some conspiracy theories. So I wanted to ask him point blank. Tried getting Josh, but that failed.
Yeah.
That's what happens sometimes when
you do.
But I honestly wonder if he's on the conspiracy bandwagon or not, or what.
I feel like
if he's on the reality bandwagon.
I feel like he's not on this one.
Okay.
I would hope so.
You never know with Josh sometimes. That's why I have to ask.
Isn't he on the whole bandwagon with the whole moon landing thing, I thought?
Oh, please tell me he's not on that one.
I thought he was. I was almost convinced at one point.
Screw the unity thing. Let's get rid of the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. I do believe the lizard people won, though.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so with it being
With it being what?
with it being 9/11, I don't know if you've heard all of these things before. So prepare for Aaron's heartstrings to be tugged a little.
No.
The cockpit's not answering. Somebody's stabbed in business class. And I think there's mace that we can't breathe. I don't know. I think we're getting hijacked.
They think they're getting hijacked. That's one of the first indications. That happened at 8 a.m. Central. Or like 8:15 Central. Or not Central. I'm sorry, Eastern time.
Eastern time.
Yeah.
So that would have been 7 here.
Yeah. That was like one of the first indications that something's going wrong.
And that's so wait, they gassed the plane.
Someone got maced.
In the plane.
Yeah. And someone was stabbed in the plane. That was one of the first indications that something was going wrong.
Something's not right now.
Yeah. And that was one of the first indications that there probably was going to be something. This was the second indication, and this one was an inadvertent one. This is one of the terrorists on the plane. They were trying to send a message to people, over the intercom to the people in the plane.
Oh.
But instead, they called flight control.
Is that American 11 trying to call?
Buddy, we have some planes. Just stay quiet and you'll be okay. We're returning to the airport.
And who's trying to call me here? American 11, are you trying to call?
Nobody move. Everything will be okay. If you try to make any move, you'll injure yourself and the airplane. Just stay quiet.
So that was a little bit before 8:30 Eastern time. That was from Flight 11. You move into about 9 a.m. then, and that's when the next kind of like big audio segment that they have from the various things. So just so you remember, both Flights 175 and 11 came out of Boston.
Boston.
Yep, so they came out of Boston, and I can't remember if both of them were flying out west to California. I know Flight 93 was, but I don't think they're supposed to be going to New York. Now the next one, like I said, it's about a little after 9 a.m. Eastern time is when this next one happens.
Hey, can you look out your window right now? Yeah. Can you see a guy at about 4,000 feet, about 5 east of the airport right now? Looks like he's...
Yeah, I see him.
You see a guy, look, is he descending for the building also?
He's descending really quick too, yeah.
Well, that's
2,500 feet now. He just dropped 800 feet in like one sweep.
That's another situation. What kind of airplane is that? Can you guys tell?
I don't know. I'll read it out in a minute. Another one just hit the building.
Wow. Wow. Another one hit it hard. Another one just hit the worst fade.
The whole building just came apart.
Holy smokes.
So that was
That was
listening.
the second hit.
That was the second hit that you're hearing is the guys describing right there, like the plane the World Trade Center just got hit. Yeah. But I mean, can you imagine? I couldn't even imagine this because I don't know what my reaction would be if I see a plane all of a sudden hit these crazy tall towers. I'd be like, what did I just see? So that's why I think his response was like, wow. Like it wasn't so much of like a disingenuous. It was more along the lines of, what am I seeing?
It almost doesn't. I mean, at that point, kind of hope you're in a nightmare.
Yeah. So the next segment is from 9:30 Eastern time.
That's American 1060.
Yeah, that's kind of self-explanatory. What they say is that that's the audio as the plane is being overtaken by the terrorists. That's what you're hearing from the cockpit there.
So that's supposed to be a pilot?
That's like...
Oh, or that's a passenger.
That's the terrorists attacking and taking over the pilots. Is what you just heard there. So that screaming...
The pilot would have been screaming.
Well, it was probably the combination of the pilot and whatever they were yelling.
Yeah.
To take control of said plane. Yeah, I know. Those are some of the, I don't know if I'd say the craziest calls, but
No.
just some of the calls that they have there. Because the other ones, are a lot more.
Passenger Lauren Grant-Colas phoned her husband Jack at 9:39 a.m., about 11 minutes after the hijacking began, leaving this message on their home answering machine.
Honey, are you there? Jack, pick up, sweetie. Okay, well, I just wanted to tell you I love you. We're having a little problem on the plane. I'm totally fine. I just love you more than anything. Just know that. And, I'm comfortable and I'm okay for now. Just a little problem, so I just love you. Please tell my family I love them too. Bye, honey.
Passenger Linda Grundland phoned her sister Elsa at 9:46 a.m., about 18 minutes into the hijacking, leaving this message on her home answering machine.
Elsa, it's Lynn. I only have a minute. I'm on United 93, and it's been hijacked by terrorists who say they have a bomb. Apparently, they have flown a couple of planes into the World Trade Center already, and it looks like they're going to take this one down as well. Mostly, I just wanted to say I love you, and I'm going to miss you. And please keep my love to my dad. And mostly, I just love you, and I just wanted to tell you that. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to tell you that again or not. All my stuff is in the safe. The safe is in my closet in my bedroom. The combination is you push C for clear and then 0913, and then it should, and maybe pound, and then it should unlock. I love you, and I hope I can talk to you soon. Bye.
Flight attendant Cece Lyles phoned her husband Lorne at 9:47 a.m., about 19 minutes into the hijacking, leaving this message on their answering machine.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I don't know what to say. There's 3 guys. They've hijacked the plane. I'm trying to be calm. We're turned around, and I've heard that there's planes that's been flown into the World Trade Center. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
Those are calls just left on
Voicemail.
people's voicemail. They weren't able to say goodbye in person to who they
They're
want
just
to
not
say
even at the
goodbye
same
to.
time. I like how they're so calm at the start of it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's crazy.
if anything you take out of today, remember that at one point we were united. Even in the midst of all this crazy, vax, unvaxxed, masked, not masked, who you voted for, your political leanings, what that you advocate for in that. There is the possibility of still being united as Americans. There's still the ability to be together as a country. To disagree on what we might like, whatever. But to still be saying, I still have my neighbor's back if something goes wrong. We need to relearn that as Americans. We need to relearn that as whatever part of the country you're from. Midwesterners, New Yorkers, Southerners, Californians, Michiganders, whatever it is. And hopefully it doesn't take another 9/11 for us to learn that. Because if we only learn after 9/11 style attacks what it means to be an American, what it means to be a human being, then we have a lot more to learn. And we have lost so much already. So, it's 20 years since 9/11. Maybe let's take this as an opportunity to learn and come together and rally around one another, regardless of our political beliefs and differences, and treat everyone else as who they are, a human being with value, a neighbor, an important person. We're going to have our disagreements. That is a guarantee, 100% guarantee. But we can make sure that we bring value to them no matter how much we disagree with them. Have a good week, everyone. We'll catch you next week.